Hello everyone, welcome back to today's episode of Survival Minecraft. We are starting off in the starter base next to the cat that we named called Dinky, and I made a little couch that they could sit on with a little rug and a side table for decoration. The rest of the house doesn't have much going on, mainly storage, but I might decorate it later in a future episode. But come with me and I will show you what I have been working on in this episode. Starting off today's episode, I traded with the cleric to get some ender pearls to get ready for going to the end, but I won't be doing that in this episode. I mined up some obsidian for a portal, and I went to the windmill to place the portal here. I didn't have a use for it, so this was a good spot to house the nether portal. I decided to make a 3x3 nether portal so that it would be symmetrical with the build. Although later I would cover it with trapdoors. I also brought my fire resistance arrows so that it would help me to not get burned by the blazes. And now it is time to go into the nether. I haven't gone into it yet, even though it's over 100 in-game days. I'm always a bit nervous about going to the nether, so I always over-prepare and I bring gold armor and protection 4 and potions if I have them, but this time I don't need potions, so that's a relief. I'm not sure what will await me on the other side, but it turned out to be a decent spawn. Not the best, but not the worst. I spawned in a ravine, and I used chunk base to find the coordinates to a nether fortress. I dug a tunnel to get there because I was trapped in that cave, and finally broke through after a while to get to the nether fortress. It took me a long time to find the blaze spotter, although I found the nether wart right away. The loot wasn't anything special to write home about, but now that I found the blaze spawner, I set up my fire resistance potions, and I was quite wary of the pigmen wandering around, because if you accidentally hit them, then you could get hordes of them chasing after you. The fire resistance arrows made it quite easy to get as many blaze rods, and I had looting 3 on my sword. Now I was back in the overworld, mission accomplished, and I planted all of the netherwort around the windmill, because it would look kind of like poppies. I went back to the villager breeder because I wanted to AFK for a bit and let some villagers breed. I was trying to figure out how to make a villager pickup system with minecarts, but I ended up doing something else instead. I wanted to make some more structures, so I made a warehouse type structure, or maybe a factory. Because I had feather falling on my boots now, it didn't matter if I took a lot of fall damage, though I used a bed to avoid some of it. I ended up using andesite, bricks, and deep slate for this building. I used these blocks because I wanted to have an industrial look to this building. I wanted to plant a big wheat field, so I harvested some of my wheat, and I replanted it, of course. But first I needed to do some terraforming, because I needed to finish the retaining wall. I was mining for deep slate for the retaining wall, and I stumbled upon a geode. So I harvested some of the crystals in case I wanted to use them for tinted glass or anything else. Next, I moved on to building the retaining wall. I decided to keep using deep slate and spruce pillars because it looked quite good. Next, I wanted to move on to the entrance and make it look a bit better and more inviting as you walked in. So I added some decorations with fountains and struggled a bit with placing the water. I wanted to have a sort of symmetrical design, so I simply went with a small circular design and added pillars. and then I copied that on the other side. However, the grass was looking kind of plain, so I decided to plant some flowers, and I used all of the poppies from the iron farm. I used bone meal to gather more 2 tall flowers and plant them along the retaining wall. I harvested the bones from a skeleton farm that I made, which I will show you soon. I also got some rose bushes and planted those at the windmill, because they would be more visible from far away. Next, I used bone meal to make the grass, to spread more grass and flowers. I extended the path to the windmill and to the factory. I wanted to add some more details because it was still looking a bit plain, so I harvested some pumpkins and dotted them around the grass. I also chopped down some cherry trees from a nearby cherry grove biome and planted them around because I really like how the cherry trees look. They have a very nice aesthetic, especially with the leaves falling underneath them. And they add a nice pop of color to everything else, which is rather brown and gray. Well, now you can see the progress so far. The retaining wall is mostly finished, and I added some paths to the entrance as well as a new building next to the windmill. We have our original starter base, and I think it's really complementing it quite a lot. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but that's okay. Next, I wanted to do some more terraforming because I wanted to build more wheat fields and crop fields outside. It was looking rather empty and needed some more things here. I also wanted to make some more animal enclosures, so I moved on to building a stable for some donkeys. I decided to use some of the cherry wood that I had chopped down from the nearby forest in order to get the saplings that I planted earlier. I also used spruce and tuff for the framing because they go quite well with cherry wood. I used a simple rectangular design, and for the walls I used more polished tuff and cherry planks. I also added some arches for decoration, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think it looks okay. To add contrast with the bright cherry wood, I added a deep slate roof with a tuff trim. I simply used slabs because I didn't want the roof to stick out too much above the other builds. To take a break for building, I decided to do some more trading with villagers. I wanted more blocks, so I wanted to make more stonemasons. I simply pushed a minecart against that corner, and then the villagers can get taken out with minecarts. I also wanted campfires because at first I was going to use that for a roof. And if you didn't know, you could buy campfires from villagers, but they're not always guaranteed to have campfires, so it can take a while to get them. I used more spruce for a pig pen, and I would also make a chicken coop after that, because I didn't have any of those animals just yet. This structure was much smaller, and I would start off using campfires for the roof, but then from a distance it did not look that great. It might look good for a bridge or a smaller structure, but for a roof it just looked kind of bland. It was a shame because it took a while to get those villagers, but I'm sure I'll use them for other builds in the future. I simply added some spruce fences and gates, and made some spruce archways for decoration. I also used some of the new spruce shelves because they're great decorational blocks. I couldn't decide how I wanted the overhang to look, so I ended up tearing down the original design, and I tried again with a new one. I ended up using stairs and trapdoors in this pattern. I used some more shelves to fill in the gaps, and it adds a lot of more texture variation and detailing to the structure. It's a nice change from only being able to use trapdoors. I removed the campfires and I replaced the roof with granite slabs and decided that looked much better and added a lot more color to the build. It was all blending in a bit too much, and that's the problem when you make the structure primarily out of wood. To make the roof slightly different, I also used bricks for the roof of the chicken coop instead of granite. I also used stairs instead of slabs, because otherwise the roof would be slightly too short. Now I'm going to go have a quick look at the new additions to the base, and the entrance really makes it look a lot more inviting and a lot more official. The new animal enclosures also add a lot more to this area, as well as the industrial building. Next, it was time to get some donkeys, and if you didn't know, you can actually put chests on them and use them as portable transportation. I had to be careful of that big hole in the ground, because otherwise I don't think the donkey would have survived. I put the donkey in its new home and went to get it a friend. Let me know if you have any name ideas for these animals. This donkey took a while to jump over the gate, but it finally made it inside. Now it was time to see if I could get some chickens into the chicken coop. Unfortunately, the eggs didn't hatch any chicks. Luckily, I found some nearby and managed to lure them in with seeds. I wanted to get 2 of every animal in case I wanted to breed them for other purposes. Finally, it was time to get some pigs, and I had to hurry because night was falling. I didn't want any mobs to spawn because, I hadn't lit up the inside of the animal pens. So I quickly slept the night away and went to get some more lanterns. I added them to the animal pens and felt a lot safer. I also added additional lighting outside the path in case mobs spawned when I wasn't looking, as well as on the retaining wall and outside the entrance. Now it was time to cure some more villagers and take a break from building. I wanted to get more building blocks by making stonemasons, but to do that I needed more emeralds. Now that they were cured, I was able to trade with them to get even more emeralds. I added some campfires to my skeleton spawner so that I could collect bone meal automatically. I wanted to make a massive wheat field because they look really good on a map and just in general. So I crafted up some hoes, and I really should enchant them, but I couldn't be bothered to do that. Instead, I used water buckets and I tilled the soil to get ready to plant the seeds. I harvested even more seeds because I would need tons for this massive wheat field. and I made sure to replant all of them. It took a long time, but I finally managed to plant all of the seeds. As you can see, this is quite a big field, so hopefully it should add a really nice aesthetic to the final build. I also wanted a use for this industrial building, so I temporarily planted some cactus that I got from the wandering trader. This is what it looks like on the inside. There's not much space in here. However, I had a problem because iron golems kept spawning on the farmland. Google had said that farmland did not spawn iron golems, but apparently it still does. So that's a bit annoying. But oh well. I just used lead ropes to get them out of the way, and I temporarily put slabs and buttons instead. But now you can see the final progress of our base, and it's looking way better than before. We have a lot more color with the wheat field, and I covered up the water sources with hay bales because it looks a lot better than just having blue holes in the wheat. I also really like the additional color from the cherry trees. It just brings it to life a lot more, as well as from all the different flowers and everything. I chopped down some more trees because I wanted to make a doghouse. I realized that I didn't collect any dogs yet, or tame any wolves, I should say. So I decided to go harvest some more materials and tame some wolves, but I would have to find them first. Eventually, I found some wolves, and I actually found 3 of them, which was surprising. But then the zombie came out of nowhere and attacked me. It had a leather cap, so it didn't burn up in the sunlight. Thankfully, the wolves managed to defeat it, and I also found another beehive that was empty. Since I had my wolves, I returned back to base and decided to build them some little houses near the farm. I decided to use oak and birch. I went with this pattern of 3x3 huts for them to sit in. Quite simple, really. But I would also use shelves to decorate them. I used oak logs in a rectangular pattern and stripped the logs, and then I would use birch for the roof. I used stairs to make kind of triangular roofs, and it did look a bit awkward at first, but eventually when the roofs are completed, it will hopefully look much better. Now that the roofs were done, I decided that I did like how they looked, and I would move on to making some walls from oak planks. I filled in the gaps between the stripped oak logs, and they didn't really need any windows because it was quite a small structure. I keep misplacing blocks in accident. I do need to get better at not doing that. I also filled in the gaps in the roof and removed the stairs that I used as scaffolding. I made some more planks and filled in the remaining gaps. Since that was done, I then had the difficult task of pushing all the dogs into their individual houses. For some reason, this one got stuck on the wall and did not want to get moved. Thankfully, I managed to relocate it to a good spot. I extended the path and I stripped some logs so that I could make shelves because I wanted to add just a bit more decoration. With efficiency on your axe, it is so much easier to strip the logs. Although it is much faster if you put logs in your offhand and place them down and then strip them that way, like how you make concrete. Now I was able to craft up some oak shelves and use them for the corners of the builds. They do help to hide these kind of connecting parts where the logs meet. I also used some oak stairs to make archways so that it looks slightly better and less square. I used the remaining oak shelves to add just some more depth to the structure. But I didn't like how the dirt was created from the shelves on the path blocks, so I had to remove those pieces and I simply placed some stripped logs there. It would blend in with the path and hopefully not look too bad. I wanted some additional lighting as well, so I crafted up some more lanterns, and I also used some oak trap doors to complete the arch. I hung some lanterns in certain parts along the roof to prevent mobs from spawning and just look better at nighttime. But I found out that I couldn't actually place one there, which was a bit annoying. Might be a bit overkill on lanterns, but you could never have enough light. I then climbed the steps to my tree platform, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Now you can see the final product with our dog houses next to the farm field, and there's still that empty spot which I might fill with more crop fields, but I think the overall progress is looking quite good. That is all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you like the dog houses and the wheat field and the other buildings as well. Let me know if you have any feedback on the episodes and anything that you want me to make in the future, and I will consider adding it to the base. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye-bye.